the other side. It is now my third Zoom episode, and I am with the great Raichele Privette. She was formerly at NBC Sports Washington. She was a digital producer, and she was the 2019-2020 sideline reporter for the Maryland Terrapins basketball team. She's a Hampton alum, and she went to Georgetown and got her master's. She is all over the place. First off, I want to tell you thank you so much for doing this, and then I want to ask you, how are you doing, and how's your family doing, especially during all the COVID and Black Lives Matter, just everything that's going on in life.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for having me. This is a pleasure. I had to come on here, support. But the family is doing well. I feel like, taking it one step at a time, hanging in there for sure. Definitely embracing one another, because it's kind of like all we got right now. And all the chaos. So we've definitely been getting a lot closer, which I appreciate a lot. So.
What was your relationship like with your family before COVID? Like, did you kind of sense that you all were a little bit more distant and kind of growing separate from one another? Or were you all always close and this is just kind of like an excuse to get even tighter?
I mean, I feel like growing up, like we've always been, pretty tight. But I mean, I was in undergrad for 4 years. I graduated 18. My younger brother, he just graduated from undergrad in 2020. So it was like, the last 2 years, it was either me and my older brother, my older brother ended up moving out. So now it's kind of just like, this has brought us all back home. Like, I'm not at school, I'm not working, I'm not reporting. So it's not like I'm on go all the time. My younger brother, he's home now because he's graduated. And my older brother, he comes over a lot more. So I feel like it's made us a lot closer. Like, we've been learning how to play spades and all these different card games because it's kind of like I said, like we're really all we have right now. So I think we've gotten closer, but within the last 4 years, like we weren't all at the same place at the same time.
Gotcha.
So this is the first time in the last few years that we've all been back together.
Okay. So did you know how to play spades prior to this?
I learned how to play spades about probably like a year ago.
Okay.
But like I learned how to play tunk, like since quarantine, and I've learned how to play pity pat.
I have no idea what pity pat is.
A lot of people have never heard of that, but it's actually really fun.
It is? Okay, cool. And then I get that you're a middle child too, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever had those middle child vibes, you know what I'm saying? Like, I hear stuff about being a middle child. It's like, I don't like being a middle child. They kind of forget about me, right? But you're also the only girl, so I feel like that they can't really forget about you.
I mean, I feel like I'm like the princess. I'm treated like a princess. Honestly, I think so. But, yeah. I feel like you definitely, like, I don't feel like I have too much pressure because I'm not the oldest child, but I also feel like my younger brother, like he kind of looks up to me in a way too. So it's kind of like I'm just navigating, just trying to figure it all out.
Absolutely. So one thing I do want to get to, I want to get to the genesis of you and like when you decided and when you found out, like, I want to be involved in sports journalism. Like, this is what I want to do for my career. Was it something that sparked you, or was it kind of like this gradual process to where you just love sports from day one? How did that come about?
I feel like it was more so a gradual process. I mean, I have 2 brothers, so I feel like growing up with 2 brothers, like I can't remember a time without being involved in sports. Like I remember when I was probably at elementary school, I played on the baseball team with my younger brother, and I was the only girl. Like my mom is a diehard basketball fan, like Lakers fan. So growing up, like that was kind of like what we did. We would go down to the basketball court and play. So that's all I've ever really seen. I feel like when it comes to watching the game, like I don't feel like I really got serious about that, paying attention to the players and the team until probably like later on. It was kind of just like I like playing the sport more so.
Got you. Did you play anything else besides baseball?
Yeah, I mean, I played baseball. I did volleyball. I always ran track and field, basketball. My senior year in high school, I tried out for the lacrosse team and I made it. So I played lacrosse for 1 year in high school. That was like, I wish I would have started earlier, but I mean, cheer, gymnastics, like I've always been in something. So sports sports has always been a part of my life.
I had to give you that face because I'm like, geez, like you almost named every sport, you know what I mean? Lacrosse is very interesting to me though, right? Like, What was it like being a part of that? Because honestly, a lot of Black people aren't involved in lacrosse.
And I think that was, I don't know, like I feel like you don't understand sometimes like at the moment, but my high school was like mixed. And I feel like, the basketball team was predominantly Black. So I had always cheered, I had always ran track. And my senior year, I was just like, I want to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
And there was two other Black girls on the lacrosse team. And I just was kind of like, I just want to see what it's about. I
Mm-hmm.
had never played, didn't know anything about it. I went and bought the equipment and I just tried out. It was definitely a learning curve, because some of these girls, they started when they were 5 years old. But I feel like I was already naturally like fast. So that kind of helped with it. I played on defense, but like I said, I wish I would have started earlier. I feel like I could have been a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody was pretty cool. Like I didn't really face any challenges
Gotcha.
as to, yeah.
So which sport was your favorite and which one were you the best at?
Cheerleading was definitely my favorite. Like I feel like when I say I didn't really get into sports like covering sports into college, because I feel like growing up, my mom had a big impact on me, and she went to Hampton University also. So
Okay.
growing up, like that was our thing. Like every year we would go to, and my dad went to Morgan State, so we would go to these homecomings, and I was so in love with the cheerleaders, like
Gotcha.
that stomp and shake style, like the HBCU style cheerleading.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like my goal. Like that was always my dream. So I feel like that was my favorite sport. I put the most time, competitive cheerleading, sideline cheerleading. That's what I put all my time and energy on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think lacrosse probably would have been like the most fun if I took it seriously and joined it earlier.
Okay. Understood. Last thing on this, and I do want to move into Hampton because I can't wait to dive deep into that. Really cannot. But cheerleading being a sport, do you ever get offended when people say cheerleading is not a sport?
I understand where they're coming from, but I feel like when people say it's not a sport, they're looking at one side. Like cheerleading is kind of like two different sides. Like you see sideline, cheerleading, which is more so like the dance, like just kind of like the jumps, whatever. But I feel like a lot of people aren't educated on like the competitive side, which
Mm-hmm.
is like, I don't know if you've watched the documentary on Netflix.
Look,
Cheer. It's called Cheer. It's called
I
Cheer.
loved it. It was absolutely phenomenal. I couldn't stop watching it.
Like it's so like you don't I feel like a lot of people don't understand like what it takes, like
Yeah.
to flip, the way that some of these people's bodies are built. I don't get offended because I feel like maybe they're just not aware,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I definitely consider it a sport, more so the competitive side. Sideline is but it's
Mm-hmm.
not as much that goes into it.
The physical beating that a lot of those girls were taking, I was cringing. You know what I'm saying? Like they about breaking bones and getting bruised up, having to soak ankles, and I'm like, Jesus, I never thought that much went into it. Honestly,
It's kind of like gymnastics. I feel like gymnastics is far way more, intense, but
mm-hmm.
in a way, like I was a flyer too, getting dropped all the time. When you're learning to tumble, like that's a dangerous, task. And I feel like there's so many times when you land, incorrectly on your head, or you know, I remember one time in high school, I don't know what I did, but I messed up like my back. So a lot of times, like you don't really see all of that, but it's like it's a real deal, like sport.
It takes a lot of courage to me to be a flyer because they just tossing y'all up in the air. You know what I mean? And then you gotta have the courage and the faith in your teammates to be like, yeah, they'll catch me. And even if
Yeah.
they don't, to still have that courage to do it again, that's
Hmm.
admirable. It really is.
Yeah, definitely have to have a lot of trust. But I didn't have a choice. I was like one of the smallest ones, so I had no other choice.
Got you. So, like I said, I want to talk about Hampton. You said that your mother went to Hampton and then your father went to, you said Morgan State, correct?
Hmm.
So HBCU ran in the family. Like, what was your decision making on going to Hampton?
Like I said, I feel like that was always like I kind of knew it. Like growing up, I was exposed to HBCUs first. I feel like when I got to high school, that's when I kind of started to see like, what the PWIs were about. And that was cool too. But it was kind of like a first love. Like I have a video my mom recorded when I was probably maybe like 3 years old. And I was out on Hampton waterfront and I'm like, I'm going to go to Hampton University. Like,
Really?
she had me say it. So I think it was kind of like, I just knew that. I mean, I applied to other schools, but I knew Hampton was it. Like HBCU, the experience was just unmatched.
Absolutely. deep down, I always wish that I would have chose an HBCU to go to, right? Because I just feel like being immersed in your own culture like that, learning from professors who look like you, who are willing to cater to your learning styles and teach the way that you need to be taught. I just really, really think that that would have benefited me. However, you know, God's plan is God's plan. I can't go back and rewrite that. But I do want to ask you, like, what was it like being a journalist at the school or being a reporter and trying to work your way into the business at the School of Hampton?
I mean, I have a funny story of how I got into it, but I feel like, God brings everything ends up working out, at the end of the day. I told you, like, I wanted to be a cheerleader. So,
Mm.
like, my freshman year at Hampton, I was a cheerleader. And my sophomore year, going into my sophomore year, I tried out again and I got cut
Mm-hmm.
from the team. And then that's when it was kind of like, all right, I was already a major in journalism, but I was trying to figure out, like, now what? Because that was my life.
Mm-hmm.
The practices, that's what I was doing. So then it was kind of like, well, now what do I do? So I started volunteering with the newscast, and I realized that our football team didn't have a reporter. So like I started videoing, like I just reached out to this guy that I had met or whatever, and I told him I wanted to get involved with the sports team. So I started videoing. Like it was like going to 6 a.m. practices. Like you can ask my roommate, like my best friends. Like I was so dedicated, and I was pitching like ideas, like I want to do stuff on camera. And eventually they gave me a shot. I think it was like maybe end of my sophomore year, early junior year, they let me start doing stuff on camera. But at first I was behind the scenes, like shooting practices, and stuff like that.
Where did that passion come from to want to get up at 6 a.m. and volunteer and do something like
I don't know. Like I feel like it was kind of just like a why not? Like you have nothing else to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like you go to college and you make the best out of it when you get involved. And at
that?
the time, it was kind of just like, I'm just trying to get involved the best way I can. Like cheerleading didn't work. I knew I wanted to pledge. So it was kind of like, I got to do something, like I got to
Mm-hmm.
have stuff on my resume. And it was kind of like, once I got cut, it was kind of like a light bulb kind of switch. Like I need to do stuff that's going to help build my resume when it comes to my career.
Gotcha.
So I feel like it was kind of just like whatever I got to do. Like it ended up not being that bad. Like I got really close with like the people on the media team and some of the players. So it wasn't really like work. It was kind of just like, I mean, we were traveling with them. It just became fun.
Yeah, I feel like that's the thing about this business, right? It's like a lot of it doesn't feel like work. You're having a great time. You're talking about sports, interacting with players, coaches. It's nothing too serious, right? We're not heart surgeons or doctors or lawyers, anything like that. It's a very lighthearted industry and a lighthearted business. How did your parents react to you when you came to them and told them, "I'm going to do journalism and I'm going to tackle it full on"?
I think they weren't really surprised. Like I remember in high school, my nickname was like Smiley. Like everybody knew me as being like really bubbly. And my professors, we were in a college prep class, and my professors, teachers, they were like, Rachel, have you ever considered being on the news? So back in high school, I was working with like our morning show. I wasn't like, taking it as seriously, but I feel like I've always loved people. I've always loved talking to people, interacting. So I don't think many people were surprised by it, because it was kind of like that's already who I was.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of just like, now you're just on camera.
It's funny that you actually bring it up about your personality and what people thought about you, because I wanted to ask you, how do you maintain your positive spirit and like this positive aura that you have about yourself, right? Because ever since I first met you, it's always been, she is always smiling, right? She is kind of bubbly, you know what I mean? But it just seems like every time I see you, you're just always in a good mood. Like, where did that come from? And like, how do you continue to maintain that? Because for me, as I've gotten older, I've kind of been like, man, like the world's getting more evil, you know what I mean? But I really, really admire the people like such as yourself who can continue to contain and have a positive mindset. How do you go about that?
I feel like I just don't really have too much to complain about. Like I feel like when I reflect over my life, and how my parents raised me, and like my support system, like I feel like I've always, like, I don't have a reason not to smile, if
Mm,
that makes sense. And it's kind of just like, I feel like the more you meet people, like you want people to remember you for being a certain way. So knowing that uh growing up, like people have known me as being happy-go-lucky or smiley or whatever, it's kind of just like, it makes me feel good to know when people think of who's Raichele Privette. Oh, that's Smiley. Like it just makes me feel good. Like, dang, like the fact that I can come in a room and get, kind of like get to know anybody or have a conversation with anybody. I kind of just feed off of that.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, I look at it as kind of like that's God's light shining through me. Like
Absolutely.
wherever I go, it's kind of like I want somebody to see him through me.
Absolutely.
So it's that's also kind of like what I pride myself in as well.
And trust me, people can feel that, right? Because your presence alone in your positive energy, I could walk up to you and I could just say, man, something's different about her and just how she carries herself. And I think that's heavy. Do you ever feel the pressure to like continue to keep a brave face or like a happy face whenever you're not feeling it? Or are you able to let yourself be vulnerable in the public eye?
Hmm. I mean, in the public eye, I feel like I kind of use social media in a way. I never like video or anything, but like sometimes like the stuff that I post on my story is kind of like, or stuff that I might tweet, it's kind of like, I'm not perfect. My life is not perfect. I'm going through it just like the rest of y'all. But in the midst of all of this, like my faith plays a part. So it's kind of just like, I try to send that message out like, yeah, I'm going through stuff too. Like I got furloughed, like whatever else is the situation, but it's kind of like I have faith.
Mm.
It's kind of just like in the midst of all of the storm, the chaos, like I'm going to still be positive. And that's what you have to do. Like you still have to believe that this is not the end, like all of it's going to work together for your good at the end of the day.
Believing in something that you can't see, it's probably for me one of the top 3 hardest things that I've had to do, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I know what I want. I feel like I know what I deserve, and I feel like I could put the work in, but it's just like, dude, you have to believe, and even when it gets hard, like that's when your faith is supposed to be tested, right? Because when everything's easy, I mean, obviously, you don't have to rely on faith as heavily, but for me
Mm-hmm.
personally, Ray, it's just been like it's been getting harder and harder and harder. And I feel like that's when God is telling me, like, yo, now more than ever, you need to have faith, right?
Yeah, because I look at it like, at the end of the day, like God already mapped out like our lives. That's how I look at it. Like he knew me before I knew myself. Like he knows what I'm going to do throughout my career. And it's kind of like, I know for a fact that he wouldn't give me these visions, these dreams for no reason. Like he's given it to me for a reason. So it's kind of just like in the midst of all of this, like I know he hasn't forgotten about me. So that's kind of like what keeps me going. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you talked about him mapping out your life. When did you figure out that it was time for you to go to Georgetown and go get your master's? Like, was it something that he spoke to you about? Was it something that you already knew once you graduated that you were going to go to school and get your master's? How did you come to that conclusion and come to that realization?
Yeah. So when I was preparing to graduate from undergrad,
Mm-hmm.
I did not know what the next step was. I feel like you see people go to grad school. Like one of my mentors, she had went to Columbia. So I was like, oh, like, okay, like this is a step. Or it was like, do you get a job? I didn't know. So it was kind of like, I just started applying just kind of like as a backup plan. I
Mm-hmm.
ended up going and interning at ESPN in Connecticut. And I remember that summer, something in my gut, like I was in love with the internship and being there, but it was like something in my gut knew like I wanted to go home. I had already got accepted into Georgetown and it was kind of like I had to make my decision. So when ESPN came with like, what are you going to stay? I just knew in my gut, like I wanted to go home because it was kind of like in my mindset, I want to be a reporter. Yes, that's a dream too, but it's also kind of like I want to change the sports realm for the future generations. And it was kind of like, whether it's in front of the camera or behind the scenes, like I want to be able to work my way up some way somehow to have like control. And it was kind of just like a maybe, like you look at all of these different industries and you don't see a lot of people of color, right? So it was kind of like, how am I going to stand apart? And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like maybe getting my second degree will give me an extra level of credibility where it's kind of like I'll be able to compete with my white counterparts. So I feel like that played a part too. Like, what can I do to map out my future in the long run?
It's funny that you talk about changing the landscape for the future generation, right? I saw something the other day, and I've always had an issue with this ratio. It's white fans in attendance, it's white coaches, it's white GMs, it's white owners, black players, it's white media members, right? Doesn't add up, doesn't really make sense. And then like you start to think about how these stories are written and how they're produced and put out to the masses about these Black players, and it's coming from people who cannot relate, right? So the way that they articulate this sort of message behind what this player said, it's just like, well, hold on, he maybe didn't mean it like that, but now you're vilifying him and ostracizing him and making him out to be a bad guy. Now you're trying to question his character, all because you can't relate. And I feel like with somebody like you, and this, I do want to get into you being a Black woman in this industry as well, but I feel like with somebody like you can almost take that pressure off of a Black player to where he can be himself around you, not have to put up this wall that we see so many athletes do. But then also, it's kind of your responsibility in a sense, correct me if I'm wrong, but to also make sure that he is presented in the best way possible and in the most human way possible, and not treated just like another athlete. He's a person, right?
Right. I agree. And I feel like the first time I probably realized that I was experiencing that was with Maryland. I mean, I don't know what the players feel like, but for me, it was like, yo, these are like my brothers.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's how I looked at them.
Wow.
So it was kind of just like, I want them to feel comfortable with me, like, confide in me, trust in me. Like, I'm here to tell your story. So it was like, I mean, I feel like I could have did a better job, but I wanted to develop like genuine relationships with them, you know? So it was kind of just like, they look at me like, I got y'all. Because I feel like trust is a major key.
Absolutely. Especially now, because it's always seeming to be athletes versus the media, right? Like, but,
Yes.
and I'm sure that made your job a whole lot easier when you're having a really good relationship with them, right? I bet that makes, like you feel not as pressured when you go to work, and like when you have to do certain things, it's just like, I'm talking to my brother, I'm talking to my friend, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely, like I said, I wish I would have done better, because I mean, going in, it was intimidating. You're still a female. I feel like towards the end of the season was like, you could tell, like, some of them would come up and give me hugs, some of them would be like, oh, how you doing, checking in. So it was like, you could see those walls coming down low key, like, okay, they're recognizing me, like, they're becoming familiar with me. And I mean, that made me feel really good. So
Being Black in this world is hard. Being a woman in this industry is hard. Being a Black woman in this world and in this industry is really, really difficult. How were you able to navigate through these walls and through these spaces? And tell me, what's been some of the biggest issues that you've had to face in the industry?
yeah, navigating, I feel like you have to have a support system. Like, you have to have like people in your back corner. And I feel like my mentors have made such a big difference. And like building relationships with other women in color who are like up and coming like myself. So it's kind of like, when you go in these environments, I can't think of one environment that I have been in where I was not like the only Black female. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, you go into these environments and maybe it's just me. I don't know how other women are, but a lot of times those situations are very intimidating. You feel like nobody else has your back, like you're by yourself. Like, you're questioning. It's constantly like, am I supposed to be here? You know what I'm saying? So I feel like it's definitely been hard. Different times where I've gone home like crying, because it's just like, I just feel like I don't belong. But I feel like, you have to remind yourself, like, I'm here for a reason. And when I talk to like my mentors like Monica McNutt, like they tell me like, I went through this too. But it's kind of like, you have to be strong. Like, you can't be soft in this industry. Like, you have to go through this because of the people coming behind you. So I feel like that motivates me to like keep going throughout like what I may be battling or feeling like inside.
Absolutely. Do you see the tide starting to turn as far as you all being represented more in the industry? And do you kind of get the sense that walls are starting to come down, or is it walls are being built up even more? It's more athlete versus media, and it's stronger than it ever has been before. How do you see the whole landscape of everything going and where it's potentially headed?
I mean, within the last few years, and I don't know if this is because I became a part of NABJ, National Association of Black Journalists, but I feel like that's all I see. So within the last like 2 to 3 years, I guess when you start to network and meet different people, I'm like, whoa, like there's actually a lot more people in this industry that you think, you know? But I feel like, especially with what's going on now, this is our chance to kind of like take advantage, because people are like, like looking around like, yeah, we need a change around here. So I feel like this is our time to really like get in. But I feel like there's you'd be surprised at the amount of people who are actually in the industry. I feel like we need more. Like, we can't stop here, but I feel like we're on the brinks of change. Like, it's getting better.
Got you.
Especially Black women. I feel like I'm seeing a lot more Black women in media. Like, I don't know if you follow like Malika Andrews. She's like sometimes on, and she was like the
Yeah.
Bucks reporter, and now she's on ESPN sometimes. But like, there's a lot more women of color who I'm seeing. Like, I don't know where they're coming from, but it's a
Mhm.
good thing.
When I saw you at the Bucks game, actually, she was like right there, kind of like in front of us doing her thing, and I didn't realize that she was from. She's from DC.
Malika,
The
Malika,
the the.
she's not a Bucks reporter like anymore. I don't think.
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking about the woman who's currently the Bucks reporter. It's a
Oh,
Black woman.
Zora
Okay.
Stevenson.
Okay. Now she was
She's
from
popping
DC.
too. She is popping too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah,
she's like one of LaChina Robinson's, I think, like mentor. So it's kind of like I'm starting to see way more like women who were already in the league, like taking, like Carrie Champion has like Brown Girl's Dream,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like they're taking us Black women under their wing because it's like they know they need us, like they know we need more of us in this industry.
Well, I also saw too on your Instagram story. I don't know how far back it was, but you won a call with a bunch of black women who were journalists, and it was just beautiful to see it.
Yes. Galvanize is another. That's what I'm saying. Like, you'd be surprised as how many different opportunities are really out here. But it's this lady. Her name is Laura Oakman, and she has this thing called Galvanize. So pretty much like, it's not just Black, it's Black and white, but there are girls in the program who were Black, and they wanted to take advantage of like her program to give a voice for us. So she allowed them to do that. So they just, put it on social media. We ended up getting like 30 people, and I had never met like any of these girls. It was crazy, but all of us are in the sports world some way, somehow. And then also Candace Bunkner from the Washington Post,
Mm-hmm.
she just started another one like last week as well. So I just got a part of that, and that's about 50 girls too, and we're all Black. So it's kind of like, yo, where are these girls coming from? But there's a lot of us.
And it's a beautiful way to network and to meet
Yeah.
people and to gain new friendships, lifelong friendships too in the business as well. Have you ever thought about moving beyond sports, or is sports where you want to stick and stay?
I've definitely thought about it, but I feel like it would have to be okay. I don't know if I would want to do like hard news. Like, I did one internship and it was like local news, and it was too hard for me. Like a lot of deaths, a lot of, like those hard stories. And that's when I kind of really, really knew like, all right, I can't, like, sports is it for sure. But so it would have to be more like on the lighter note of storytelling. Sports, I feel like, is unique because it has a way of like uniting people from all over together. So I feel like that's why I love it so much. It's kind of like, yes, we do have issues that are going on in the sports world as well, but it's kind of like you can go to a game and find common ground with people who don't look like you, from wherever they're from, and it's like you guys just have the same team that you favor. So I feel like that's really unique about sports, but I would definitely be open. I don't really know like where yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I would be open to outside of sports too.
You're still so young. You're still in your embryonic stages. I know you got so much further to go. I think you're really, really dope in what you do. I was so happy. I remember when I first saw you do the sideline interview with the Terps. So happy for you, right? Because you work hard, and again, I feel like you were one of these people who you genuinely deserve everything that God is going to give you, and I'm just really, really excited to see, where you go to from here on out. I want to ask you a few more things. One is with the whole season and with sports resuming, with everything that's going on in this world right now, do you think that it's best for them to continue to play? Or do you think that, specifically for basketball, do you think that they should kind of just put it on hold, start it, next season around Christmas time? And if not, tell me why.
I feel like this is so like tricky because you see on both sides, and it's like, I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw it, I was like, why are they doing this? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, I was on that side for sure. Like, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. Like, people's health comes first. And then, I mean, today, what they announced, like 16 more players, so I feel like everybody's different and everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but you have to respect those individuals who, one, are opting out because it's like their health, their injuries or whatever, and also people's families. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you have small kids, if you have older parents or whatever, like, I feel like we have to respect their opinion and their decision to like sit out. But I also do see the side of where, players, what they're saying, like, can take advantage of this opportunity to stand for like, social justice by using their platforms. My only fear is that one, they're going to Florida and there's already all these cases that are like skyrocketing right now. So it's kind of like, that's like well, what's going to happen? And also we know players like LeBron James, they're always vocal. Like I feel like Chris Paul, you always see like certain players who are like, before all of this even happened, who were using their platform. I'm just worried about those other players. Like some of them are on it now, but it's like, are you going to continue it once the season starts? So it's scary. I don't know if it's really, really worth it, in my opinion, but I can understand like why they would want to continue. But I definitely could see it as a distraction and a health concern. So it's kind of like, I feel like I'm more so leaning towards I don't think it's worth it. Like maybe y'all should just wait. But at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want to do. So
yeah, true. If they came to you, as reporters said, right, we need you to come down here and work during the pandemic, would you do it?
I feel like I have a weakened immune system. So in the midst of all this, I've really been like in the cut, like really like at home, because that's what they're saying. Like if like you guys are the people who we need to be like worrying about. So I feel like, I don't know, like that would definitely have to be like a concern that I have to talk to with like several people in my family, just get that guidance. Cause like, are you gonna risk it?
Absolutely. That makes sense. Initially, once they said basketball's coming back, I was excited about it. And then after a while, I was like, I don't know. I don't really think it's worth it. And then just like you said, we're getting more and more people who are getting it and contracting COVID. So I'm just like, at this point, I don't think it's worth it. And this is coming from a stalwart basketball fan. Like I love it with everything I got, right? But at this point, I would just say, wash your hands clean, throw the season away. It'll be weird in the record books, but I think that it'll benefit everybody else in the long run.
And did you see like people were talking about how, I mean, of course, most of the big players are still in it, but it was kind of like, if they do play, are people years from now going to be like, well, that year didn't count because of the players, that did not play, or the ones that got, coronavirus? Like, is this going to be a year, if we do move forward, where people are like, it didn't matter, like that year doesn't technically count anyway. I feel like,
well, I think that whoever wins this year, every other fan is going to say, well, it's an asterisk beside. Like, people are going to put an asterisk beside whoever wins this thing if they continue to move forward with it. I really believe, Rachel, all it takes is for somebody like LeBron to get it, right? And then you're like, oh, man, like, okay, yeah, maybe we do need to shut this thing down because we can't have people going outside.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So before I get you out of here, like I mentioned to you in a text message, I ask everyone this question when they come on. You have to give me your Mount Rushmore, and it's going to be catered. Everyone's Mount Rushmore is catered to them. So for you, I wanted you to give me your Mount Rushmore of journalists and or reporters.
Okay, for sure. Doesn't have to be in a specific order. I just need this list them.
It's just your top four
on that list.
Who?
Jemele
Hill.
Yes, as a journalist, all around, like yeah. Doris Burke as a reporter. Maria Taylor, and my heart, I would have to say Monica McNutt.
Okay, gotcha.
Like, yeah, no, she's definitely doing her thing for sure.
Wow. So I love Jemele. She's obviously the outspoken one in the bunch, right? She's definitely gonna let you know how she feels. DB is phenomenal. I could listen to Doris Burke talk basketball until I can't live anymore, right? You know what I mean? She's just absolutely amazing. You said it was Maria Taylor 3, right? Let me tell you something. I think she is absolutely phenomenal. She has this presence about her on camera to where I'm just like, it is so easy to watch her, and she's so good. She's so talented. She's so knowledgeable, and you can put her anywhere, and she's gonna thrive. She's absolutely, absolutely amazing. I love Maria Taylor. And Monica McNutt, I'm not too familiar with her. I feel like Colvin mentioned her to me, though. I feel like that's how I know her.
That's how he found me. It was through her. But, like, I mean, she's like ACC Network, MSG she was doing. So she's, like, a little bit on a smaller scale, but she's working her way up. Alongside, like, I feel like the Elle Duncans, like, they're all phenomenal. But Monica McNutt hits close to home because I got a relationship with her, so I got to throw her in there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, look, Raichele, I want to thank you so very much for doing this again. Your time is very, very valuable. And the fact that you shared it with me today means the absolute world to me. I hope that you continue to stay safe, please, and continue to keep putting the work, keep grinding, because I know that the top is waiting for you to join it. So thank you for everything, Raichele.
Thanks for inviting me. Like, this has been a pleasure. We had to catch up. It's been a little while, but I mean, just watching you, you're killing it too. That's why I'm like, I feel like a lot of times we look up to these people, but it's kind of like you need to pay attention to who's right here with you. Like, we're gonna be at the top next. Me, you, Ty, all of us. Like, we gonna be straight. So I feel like you're killing it, and keep doing your thing. Like, this is amazing. So
Yeah,
I'll be
thank
looking
you. I
forward
really
to it.
appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. All right. So have a great day again. Stay blessed. All right.
Thank you. You
All right.
too.